You walk past a kitchen knife on a counter. Your eyes flick to it. You don't decide to look, you just do. That reaction is not a coincidence. It is not a personality quirk. It is a piece of ancient machinery still running inside your skull, thousands of years after the world stopped needing it every single day. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it the weapons effect. And the story of why it exists is far stranger than you think. In 1967, a researcher named Leonard Berkowitz ran an experiment that would end up defining an entire field. He and his colleague Anthony LePage brought people into a lab and deliberately angered them. Then they sat those angry people down at a table. On that table sat two objects. Sometimes it was a shotgun and a revolver. Sometimes it was badminton rackets. The participants were told the weapons had nothing to do with the study. Just leftover props from another experiment, forgotten on the table. Then they were given a chance to punish the person who had angered them using a mild electric shock. The people sitting near the guns delivered stronger shocks. Every time. The weapons themselves, just sitting there, silent and unused, made ordinary people more aggressive. Berkowitz called it a trigger. Not a metaphor. A literal cognitive trigger, flipped by nothing more than the sight of an object built for harm. Why would your brain do that? Why would simply seeing a weapon change how you behave? To answer that, you have to go back. Not centuries, not even millennia. You have to go back to a time before your species had language, before it had fire, before it had a single word for anything at all. Your ancestors lived in a world without walls. No locks, no police, no safety net waiting to catch them if a rival tribe decided their territory looked appealing or their berries looked worth stealing. The only thing standing between your ancestors and disaster was a small collection of decisions, made quickly, made correctly, or made never again. In that world, a sharpened stick was not just a tool, it was survival information. It told your ancestors' brains something urgent. Someone here is capable of serious harm. Pay attention, prepare. Decide right now whether you fight or whether you run. The brains that paid attention to that signal passed on their genes. The brains that shrugged it off often did not get the chance. This is where it gets interesting. Researchers studying the evolution of aggression, including work reviewed by evolutionary psychologists like David Buss, have found that humans do not process all threats the same way. Your mind has specialized alarm systems, shaped over an almost incomprehensible stretch of time, each one tuned to a different kind of danger. There is one system for disease. It makes you recoil from rot, from mold, from the smell of decay, faster than you can consciously register why. There is one system for heights. It makes your stomach drop before your rational mind finishes calculating the distance to the ground. And there is one system for weapons, for sharp edges, for anything built by a mind like yours, specifically to injure another mind like yours. That system does not politely wait for permission. It fires first and explains itself later, if it explains itself at all. Here is the strange part. This system does not just detect danger. It changes your behavior even when there is no danger at all. Later researchers, including Brad Bushman, expanded on Berkowitz's original work and found something remarkable. A review of more than 50 published studies confirmed that the mere sight of a weapon increases aggression in people who are angry and in people who are perfectly calm. Not holding a weapon, not being threatened by one, just seeing it. One study even found this effect behind the wheel of a car. Drivers with a weapon visible in their vehicle behaved more aggressively on the road than drivers without one, even when nothing else about the situation had changed. Think about what that means. An object with no intention, no anger, no agenda of its own, is still capable of reaching into your nervous system and turning up the volume on your own aggression. You are not choosing that response. You inherited it. So why did your ancestors ever start making these objects in the first place? The honest answer is that weapon making was never really about violence. Not at its root. It was about a problem every social species eventually runs into. Resources are limited. Status matters. And sometimes the safest way to avoid a real fight is to make sure everyone already knows who would win one. Anthropologists studying coalitional aggression, the tendency for groups to compete and cooperate simultaneously, have found that early tool and weapon development tracked closely with group living. The more your ancestors depended on each other for survival, the more pressure there was to also be able to defend what the group had built: food stores, territory, each other. A sharpened stone was not just about killing, it was about signaling. It said, "This group can protect what is ours. Go somewhere else." That signal mattered so much that it shaped the human brain itself. Some researchers argue that early weapon use may have contributed to changes in hand structure, grip strength, and even the coordination between the eyes and the throwing arm. Your ancestors were not just using tools. Over generations, tools were quietly using them back, nudging their bodies and brains toward greater precision, greater strength, greater synchronization between eye and hand. This is the counterintuitive twist. You tend to think of weapons as instruments of destruction. But across most of human history, the primary function of a weapon was never to be used. It was to be seen. A displayed weapon that prevented a fight did its job perfectly. It never spilled a drop of blood, and it still worked. That is the same reason your brain still reacts to a knife on a counter today, even though nothing in your kitchen intends to harm you. The ancient alarm cannot tell the difference between a butter knife and a spear raised in anger. It only knows one thing: sharp edge. Pay attention. Modern life is full of these mismatches. Your brain is running software built for a world of immediate physical threats. But you now spend your days scrolling past headlines, arguing in comment sections, watching action movies where weapons appear on screen every few minutes. Each time, that same ancient circuit quietly fires. Attention increases. Heart rate shifts. Aggressive thoughts become slightly easier to access, even if you never notice it happening. Some researchers have started asking a bigger question. If simply seeing a weapon can measurably increase aggression in a controlled lab setting, what does constant exposure do at a societal scale? This is still an active and debated area of research, and scientists caution against drawing simple conclusions from a single study. But the underlying mechanism, the ancient trigger Berkowitz identified decades ago, has been replicated again and again across different countries, different age groups, different situations. What starts to become clear is that the story of weapons was never really about metal or stone. It was about attention, status, signaling strength without needing to prove it. Your ancestors were not simply violent creatures who happened to build sharp tools. They were social creatures who discovered that the appearance of danger could sometimes protect a group as effectively as danger itself. The tools changed. Stone gave way to bronze. Bronze gave way to iron. Each new material meant a new signal, a new way of saying, "Do not test us." But the underlying psychology driving all of it stayed remarkably consistent, generation after generation, because the problem it solved never really went away. Groups still compete. Status still matters. Threats, real or perceived, still shape behavior in ways most people never consciously register. And your brain, sitting behind your eyes right now, still carries every bit of that inheritance. It does not know that you live in an apartment with a lock on the door. It does not know that the person walking towards you on the sidewalk is almost certainly no threat at all. It only knows the rules its ancestors learned, over and over, across a length of time so long it is difficult to even picture. So the next time you feel your attention snap towards something sharp, something built with harm in mind, notice it. Notice how fast it happens. Notice that you never chose it. You did not decide to look. You just did.